time to cross something off the bucket list. I have always wanted to get a lift. It's ever since using them at school and just how convenient they are. I've always wanted to get a 2-post, but to do that, you'd have to have a big slab that you got a 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot deep concrete block that you can mount your posts to so that it doesn't fall over. And I just don't think I'm ever going to get around to cutting these out of our concrete slab that we poured and repouring it and doing all this work, hiring a company to come out and fill it just for that. I'm just never really going to do it. So I found this option. It's a 4-post lift, and this one is big enough to fit just about any truck that I would have access to, and it has a weight capacity of 11,000 pounds, which should be able to lift any kind of vehicle that we have got. Well, it's done.
It's my biggest single purchase, Parker, other than a car, but paid more for a car. That's the biggest individual thing I got.
One of the benefits of working in a warehouse is I have access to a shipping dock and forklifts, which came in handy because they loaded this thing in with the heavy side on the inside of the trailer, which is where all the legs and everything were. So when we tried to pull it straight out, it would get hung up. But luckily we had a second forklift, so I jumped on that and backed in, picked it up from one side. Buddy picked it up from the other side, and we pulled it on out that way. After we got it out, one forklift can move it around pretty easy.
Heavy, very heavy. It's gonna be piece by piece off that trailer.
These are the spares.
All right, that's the first load packed up, and then I'll get that home and we're gonna put the scaffolding on here. We got a little rack we built where it's going to stick out the front and the back, and I'm just going to take one piece at a time. Whatever I can lay down the back, I think I can get all those center pieces out. The two long ones, that's going to be the ones that I'm going to have to put the rack on for and carry that back, but I think I should be able to do it. Черепаха. Вот идет. Большого. К нам идет. Все к нам идет. Just kidding. My dad's friend's helping us get it. Wouldn't fit on my Prius. Oh, I wasn't recording. All right, put it down. Put it down. Put it down. Okay. All right. Yeah, you just need a couple strong guys to unload it off the trailer, but that's all you need at home. After that, now we're just gonna see how we can figure out if it'll go in place. Okay, so I messed up here. If you do this, remove the bolts entirely if you're going to be removing the top section of this unit. To get to the other ones, I really don't think you need to, but that's the way I did it. I watched another video of a guy. He did that as the very last step after he took everything up. But you can pop out the bolts completely from top and bottom, and it'll still stay on the legs without falling out.
The other side hard?
There is most definitely a more correct way of doing this than we did it, but that's just how we got it done. It worked.
Alright, chill. Chill. Hydraulics are. No, it's fine. The cable, all the hydraulics are in here. The cable's just hanging low.
So we read the instructions, and the first page says to measure out the distance in a square and figure out where everything's going to go, and we did that to begin with, and it does help you see kind of where you're going to be putting everything, but actually visualizing it and making sure everything lines up was very difficult to try to do. We weren't really getting anywhere with it and getting frustrating because you're constantly setting one up, then measuring to another, then measuring to the other, then going back and measuring to the first one, then measuring to another. So it was getting very difficult to follow along with what we were doing because it was constantly changing. So what we figured out after watching some other reference videos was the best solution is you take two of your uprights and insert a cross beam inside. Set that up to create a leg, and then that measures everything out for you. You don't have to make sure the uprights are aligned. The cross beam will do that for you.
So, I believe we've got this correctly oriented. We got our holes there, and we're going to slide it down into our two rails and then stand it up. And then after that, the next step is to put some of those plates in. So let's do that. Let's swap those two. Yeah, there's two pretty ones. That's the pretty ones. The rest of them are plain. So let's put that pretty one with that pretty one. So they'll be facing out.
So one important thing to keep in mind when assembling everything is there is cutouts inside of the cross beams. One has two slots cut in, one a little bit above the other, and the other side has two equal size slots. those are where the pulleys and cables run. So when you're orienting your cross beams, make sure that the 2 slots on either side are facing inward, and they are also on the same side of the rail, because that is where your rail with the cylinder and the cables is going to go. And if you have it backwards, you won't be able to install anything. So you got to make sure that that is on the side that your power unit is going to be on, because that's where the hoses run as well.
Give me a second. ISO rating? Okay. Progress. So we got that slot there, that slot there. Power unit should be here. And we got the pretty sides on this side. So, I'm gonna pop it, yeah, because it goes into that slot. Yeah, like there, into there. There, and now it's locked into that. Okay, so here, click into that slot at the bottom. Yeah, into there. Just grab it and lift it.
I don't have a gap up, Joe. You have to lift your side off.
Hold up. Now grab it. So, there you go. Hold up, Rambo. Alright. Cool. Now let's go back and see what the next step is. Alright, we've got all our stuff laid out here. The instructions are really bad about telling you what bolts go into what, but for the holding the lock rails in, I think we're going to do these big bolts with that on one, pass it through, and then lock nut and washer.
There are black spacers inside of the toolkit. I don't know where else they would go. They are the same thickness as the distance for the threaded rod at the top from the wall, so I would go ahead and put them on here. Later you'll see that I did go back and put them on here.
Going with that. But I'm going with that setup. Here's our ingenious muscle saving plan. Pallet, creeper, and then when we got to lift this really heavy, when we got to lift these heavy runways, that one's significantly heavier. We'll lift that, carry it 5 feet, 10 feet, set it down on there and roll it where we need to go. And now we're gonna put this cap on the top. Alright, take this all off. Alright, so they come like that. You gotta loosen it off and lower the bottom nut enough for this cap to fit in that orientation. You thread this in there like that, and then snug that one up until it hits the bottom of the plate. Put the top one on, tighten it down, and it locks it in place. While I'm waiting for the rain to stop, kind of sorting through what I have left here. There's a lot of parts that the instructions don't tell you to use, so I found a video that I'm kind of following along of a guy that's got the same lift, and trying to guess which bolts he's using as well. So for the pump housing here, there was only 2 bolts that were already put together, so I think they get installed like so. Then I found 4 bolts, which I think will be holding that, so that's going to go there. Not sure where these 5 bolts go, these 2 eyelets, these 2 bolts, or these 2 bolts. I have 8 bolts there, and in the instructions, they don't tell you to put them here, but there's a hole on either side of each cap that we just installed up here at the top. And I guess I'm gonna follow the other guy's video and put 1, 2 on each side. I'm gonna put lock nut on the inside, facing it out like that, and bolt them down. There are 8. So as far as I can tell, they actually go there because they're an exact match to the number of bolts. And we'll see what else we run into.
And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
So I've been reading and rereading the instructions, and I've been watching and rewatching the different videos, and this one gentleman that I'm following his video, and nobody said where to put these spacers. The only place I can think that they need to go is I've measured this spacer is about the same offset as that threaded rod is, which is holding this rail in. And so I think there's supposed to be a consistent gap at the top and the bottom. So I'm gonna take those bolts that we installed earlier out, put this spacer on the back side between the rail and the locking mechanism, and that should make it the same width all the way up and down, and I can tighten those down and I think we'll be set. Well, I don't think it's rated to be outside according to the manufacturer. I'm doing this at my own risk. I think it will be fine. I'm gonna put a tent over it in the future, so don't assume what I'm doing is correct. I'm just willing to take this risk and have an outdoor lift because it's on my bucket list of things to do. These little spacers, very tight to fit in there. I'm gonna try to use this pliers to kind of hold it in place for me and see if that'll make it any easier. So yes, those 45-degree long pliers help me drop it right in there, pass the bolt through. So as best as I can tell, that is where that spacer is supposed to go. Okay, well the rain's not letting up, so tapping out for the night. I'll pick it up tomorrow morning, hopefully without the rain. Again, I'm doing this at my own risk. No manufacturer ever directly recommends installing it outside. No manufacturer generally that I've run into explicitly states don't run it outside. I've not directly asked them, but it's not written down in there. The main thing that I know is the power unit, which I have not even unboxed. You gotta keep that dry because it's an electrical component, so I will be building like a bucket housing that I put on it and take off of it when I leave it outside. But aside from that, this is just a hydraulic cylinder and some cables, which should get air dried, so not that concerned. That does not mean this is a good idea. It's just what I'm willing to do. Looking at the build quality of this, I think it will take years and years and years for it to rust. And the nice thing about it is it's a lift. So when you lift it up, you can really quickly inspect all the cables and everything. And you're supposed to do that regularly anyway, so that should help you catch any problems. But rain's not letting up. I'm done for today. I'll pick it back up later. Alright, it's the next day. The rain has stopped. I have found by watching the rain come off of here, I have too much of an acceptable level of tilt. I believe this side, so I got my level on here, and on this side it's about 1/4 inch, which I was okay with. I could make that work because you have some adjustment on the locking rail. By tightening that up, it will lift it, and you get a little bit of adjustability there, and you make sure that it's all level. But on this side, that would be level. And that's a little more than I'm comfortable with. So I'm gonna buy, I had this tempered steel, so I'm exposing it to the elements so that the elements won't hurt it anymore in the future. And I was gonna cut that up into 12 by 12 blocks and make a big old stack and put it underneath each leg to level it out, because this one here is the highest. Everything else needs to get raised up to match that one to be level. I was gonna do that, but then after talking to my dad, he said we're probably better off just buying nylon blocks like these, because they have very high compression strength and they are not influenced by the elements. They don't deteriorate. So I'm gonna go price that out. And he's got a friend that's got some leftover blocks that we might be able to use. So we'll just lift it till these two are level, lift it until those two are roughly level, put our runner in, get them lined up, and then level the front and back. And then we'll see. This is how unlevel we are. So that is the highest post, followed by this post, which I have this 1/2-inch plastic material. So we laid that there to bring us to level. This front to back is also about 3 slabs thin. And so we leveled the front to the back, and then we leveled the left to the right. That is a perfectly level situation, front to back, left to right. I was worried, I thought the paint had rusted through, but all the rust on this is bleached off of here, so we just washed it out and all the rust is going away, for the most part. Now we're gonna install this light one to get our length fixed in.
3, 2, 1. Ignition.
I wonder how we're gonna move that one. It's gonna be very heavy. Similar processes. So these, I have a bunch of washers left over. So I think all of these are double washered. I've been doing washer on the nut side and then just the lock washer on the impact side, but everything's got a ton of washers with it, so I think it's supposed to be washer, then washer and lock nut. On the outside, I just have it backwards on here, but I think everything is supposed to be double washered. I keep getting rained out, but let's see. Oh, this is so heavy. One-handed. I'd say these things are like 40 pounds. О, как раз прямо до края. Right to the edge. Мотоциклы можно уже заезжать. So make sure you do every bolt as the flat washer on the nut side, followed by a flat washer, then the lock washer, then the nut. Because I didn't do that for all of them, because I didn't know how many washers and how many nuts there were going to be. But you want these to look like that. So one flat washer, followed by a flat washer, a lock washer, then the nut. Because I wasn't sure and I thought it was just one nut
on one side and lock washer on the other side. And so when I did all my top ones, that's what they look like. And the lock washer has fallen into that gap. It's not really compressed, so I'm going back, removing all of them and adding it. And I did on the bottom ones too, where inside and the outside all is lock washer, washer, and on the inside a washer.
The sun sizzles, fittings tremble softly. We file, hammer, screw tightly to the foundation.
Let's see what we're working with. That's touching the ground. This side is 133.9, 121.8.
What we're doing now is we're going to pour concrete riser bases for these little platforms to make it all level. So we've marked out where they're going to go, and in order to keep it consistent height that we need, we're going to 3D print these little frames, which will also give me a little cool curved corner on the inside, and I think that'll be fun. And we're gonna embed the messages. I got my brother's names in here and my name, and we're gonna have some fun with the concrete pouring, and we'll see how it turns out. But we're gonna 3D print these to whichever heights that they need to be to make it perfectly level. I was reading the data sheet, and for Quickcrete, after 7 days, you're running at, I believe, 2,500 PSI. And then after 28 days, it's the full 4,000 PSI strength. According to my math, this is an entire unit weighed 2,300 pounds. The heaviest vehicle I have available to me that I can lift on here weighs 5,000 pounds. So I think we're okay. We'll be fine, and it'll be better than the Teflon blocks that we have. So that's good.
Screw it until it's like almost
halfway off the nut.
It basically is all.
Пока вот это затронется. Еще.
Всё.
Все, назад. Ее надо сюда.
Чуть-чуть поднять, like the hair, that way we're not on it.
Да, вверх чуть-чуть.
Все, вот так.
Сейчас вниз. Чуть-чуть вверх. Вот так. Все, вниз.
Почти.
Все, вниз. О, come on. Вот так. Сейчас. All right. Got second runner on. And now I'm gonna run the cables. Tried two different methods. First method is these bolts right here. We lined this one up as close as we could and we got the cables out. When you get them, they're looped around here and the other end of the cable is on the inside of the machine. We took it off and you'll see one cable is longer than the other. So that's one of the cables. It only reaches that far. That's this side. So it was the shorter cable. So that goes to the closer leg. So it goes there, around there, and I fed it through here and dropped it down to then feed it up. This side was the longer one. It ran about halfway down the runner. Ran it here, ran it all the way down there, and it came out there. The way I did that was I took those bolts out, I grabbed some chainy locks and pulled out those pins, pulled the pulleys out, slid everything into place, and then I put the pulley back in with the cable running the correct direction and locked everything down. It was a little bit more nerve-wracking and annoying because you had to make sure you lined everything back up and the pulleys are all going the right way, which is why they're at different heights, so this one can run underneath the other one. On the other side, we did something different, which I think is the better method, which is what you should do. You should either install this runner with the cylinder first, or do it the same way we did, which was on that end, we took those two bolts out completely and loosened those bolts, and we picked the leg up and dragged it back enough for this thing to sit all the way down at the height it needed to be, and then we pulled the leg back in so that those pulleys right there would fit in the cutouts. We had picked the appropriate cables to go. This bottom cable goes to the right, that cable goes to the left. These top cables are the ones that loop around to this side on the power unit end. And then that was a lot easier. We just balanced it. We put a couple boards under these, put a jack on here, and then slowly lowered it down to the height. And as we lowered it, we pulled that leg in and they just all fit after we had pre-runner cable ends. There's the short one, there's the long one. So it was a little annoying, but I would probably, if you have a very good way, like a motorcycle jack or a pallet jack or a forklift at home, I would probably install this one first, because then you would just bring the legs into it and these pulleys would sit right into those cutouts. It's a lot easier. One of the other things I don't like that I'm going to look at changing out is this cable here. As you can see, it's got this bracket and it kind of has to drop down and connect to this bulkhead, which would then connect to your power unit. I don't like how tight of an angle that is, because it looks like it's already cut into this hose once, and every time you're going to run hydraulic power to it, it's going to move a little bit, and so that'll drag out. I don't like that. The weird thing is, this is a very uncommon size. This is 5/16. And working in the hydraulic industry, I can probably count the number of times I've made a 5/16 hose. We don't even stock that at either of the companies I've worked for. So I'm gonna probably swap that out. I just need to find out if this is a number 5 or a number 6 hydraulic at hand fitting. All right, well, it's been 3 weeks outside in the rain. Since we finally got the runner up, I figured I'd do a little checkup. After 3 weeks of just sitting here, those all look good. These components all look good. There's a little bit of rust in there, and the most rusted component is that lock lever. Just the parts that got scratched are rusted, which I'm gonna buff out and then repaint them. And then there's some rust buildup inside this trough, and then scratches, but all the components, see that arm is a little bit rusted. The springs are all good. Everything seems to be fine. Just where we've scuffed the paint, it rusted.
You went under the net. You went under the net. I saw it. So how did it go? How did it go under the net?
It didn't go under the net. It hit the top and went straight down.
No, it did not. It went under the net. The bottom of the net was moving while the top was sticking.
How did it go under the net? Alright, fine.
It went under the net because it went under.
That little schmutz right there, it's stopping the rod, starts to slide in, but then it hits that little slag and won't go in, so I gotta figure out
Undefeated.
how to clean that out. Alright, I'm doing this with just a lock nut. Got it. That's in there. Now I just gotta bolt her together.
Listen to the dog.
Got my units assembled here. I just tightened that down snug. And I tightened this down snug. I don't really get, there was no mention of this in the instructions or in videos that I could find of this piece of Teflon. I'm guessing it's to make sure the rod doesn't fit in here, because when I was playing with it earlier, this rod would sometimes slip in there because this moves in and out. So I got it in position and tightened it down to where as it's a guide rail. I can't think of any other use for it. But basically I just got it in position, made sure it was there, and then I went back with a wrench and I tightened that bolt in to sit there. Got that one. Ran the eyelet to support the long one. Same thing on that other side. I did buy myself an accessory at Harbor Freight and I got it for 20% off, so $135 before tax. What's supposed to be able to happen is it holds 20 gallons in this tank, and as it fills up you'll see your oil level fill up here, and then once it's full you hook up an air compressor onto that regulator, and it'll pump air into the top of the tank, pushing the fluid out of this hose, and you can drain it real easy. Well, figured I'd start with that. Get me a little bit of accessories while I can, but I think I'm pretty much done. There is a bunch of leftover hardware. All this, I believe, is extra. There are these holes in the sides that I don't know what they're for. There's no mention of them in the instructions or here. I don't know if this is for the previous model that they used to have the locking rail that's now there. They used to have that running on the outside, so I don't know if that's just a leftover from that old design, but I think I'm done with the tools. All I've got left is these 4 here that will be going on the pump. Next thing is, that's where this is gonna go. Alright, there's these 4 holes here that this thick bracket goes in, and this is supposed to be, this is where they're welded together. This will stop any flexing when you put heavier vehicles on it. So I found these 4 identical looking bolts, and I'm going to use them here. Okay, I can't find anything in any videos online about this dipstick, so I'm going to assume that I fill it until this is touching fluid, then I'll run it and see what happens. I'm using a W46, which is what everybody else online has, and I just got this oil can that I use for changing oil, put my new fluid in there, and pour it in until I'm full. Perfect. Just covers the tip. So there's the original hose. Those 90s on it that we had. This is my new hose. So it's got a much longer 90, so it should not bend nearly as far. And I went ahead and got a protective sleeve for it just in case. And then I put another long 90 on this side. In case you need to know, on my lift, I also made this a 3/8 hose. This was a 5/16 hose with a number 6 JIC female end on it. So if you're needing to redo yours as well, I believe mine was 76.5 inches. I'll have to check my notes to verify. So I was going to use the original hose here that ran from the pump to the runner, but I wanted to put a 90 adapter on there. This, on the original, is a number 6 SAE. So it's bigger than that side. So it's a special fitting. That's a number 6 JIC. This is a number 6 SAE. And this is underneath 14mm metric. So I found an adapter that screws into there that's a 14mm metric to a number 6 JIC. And I've made me a hose with a 90 on it, so it'll be a nice tight fit and kind of run along the length of the machine. So I'm going to hook that up. Alright, well, I've got everything wired. I've got everything together. Regular short 90, because that lets me very carefully put my bucket on and completely covers everything without having to unhook it every time. Temporarily wired up the thing, and now it functions. So now I'm going to be adjusting the locks. They don't fire in order. So it looks like these 3, that corner, this corner, and this corner may be in line, but this corner is locking about a half a second ahead.
Красота!
Well, this is it. It's put together, it's finished, and on the highest setting it's actually a little bit too tall for me, so I won't have to worry about it. I have to really reach up here to grab it, and I can do it a little lower. But that's the whole journey. There's nothing left here except to bolt it down. Hopefully this helps somebody. Thanks for watching. Bye.